Oi, pessoal, boa noite, bem-vindos à nossa live session de hoje. Meu nome é Ana Paula e eu faço parte da equipe do The Student World. E hoje, como vocês já sabem, a gente vai falar sobre estudar medicina na Itália, todas as oportunidades disponíveis para brasileiros na Università Cattolica do Sacro, Cuore. A gente vai esperar mais alguns segundinhos para começar, mas enquanto isso eu queria que vocês mandassem ali no chat da onde vocês estão assistindo a gente, em qual cidade vocês estão. O horário, acredito que para vocês também seja 6 da tarde, né? Horário de Brasília, mas vão comentando para a gente aonde vocês estão hoje, por favor. A gente vai adorar saber. Ah, legal, bastante gente do Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, Recife, muito bom. Franca, interior de São Paulo, Curitiba, várias, Goiânia, legal. Bastante gente aqui já comentando. Itapema, São Luís, Porto Alegre, Caicó, Bahia, muito bom, legal. Muito bom saber que tem tanta gente do Brasil inteiro assistindo a gente e querendo estudar medicina na Itália, né? Que é a melhor parte aqui dessa live. Pessoal, alguns recados antes da gente começar. Essa parte do chat serve para vocês interagirem uns com os outros, enfim, comentarem enquanto a live acontece. Se vocês tiverem qualquer dúvida, vocês podem mandar nessa aba de perguntas. Então, dúvidas sobre a apresentação, sobre a instituição, qualquer dúvida que vocês tenham mesmo, só na aba de perguntas, por favor, que é onde a gente consegue controlar melhor, a gente consegue acompanhar. No final da apresentação, a gente vai ter uma sessão de Q&A, né, de perguntas e respostas, para a gente responder pelo menos algumas ou as principais dúvidas que estão ali. Então, durante toda a apresentação, vocês podem engajar, podem mandar suas perguntas, que no final a Elizabeth, que está aqui comigo, vai responder todas essas dúvidas, tá bom? Então, agora, eu vou apresentar a vocês a Elizabeth, que ela é a representante da Università Cattolica do Sacro, Cuore. Vou passar a palavra para ela. Essa apresentação vai ser toda em inglês, mas a sessão final de perguntas e respostas eu vou fazer a tradução. Vocês podem perguntar em português, que eu traduzo para a Elizabeth e ela responde. Se ficar mais alguma dúvida, a gente traduz para o português de novo, tá bom? Então, é isso, Elizabeth. We can start now. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me. And I was earlier explaining that I actually don't understand Portuguese very well, but I'd have to say that a good portion of what you just said, I understood. So I will just pick up a little bit where you left off to say that, yes, we will answer the questions at the end of the session. So feel free to go ahead and pop them in as you think of them, because sometimes it's hard to remember later. And if for any reason we don't have time at the end of the session, then we will coordinate together to make sure that you can get an answer. And I will give you contact information of how you can reach me directly and my teammates at Università Cattolica in order to answer some questions. I will go ahead and get started. So my name is Elizabeth, and I am a U.S. citizen, actually living in Rome, Italy. I've been here for 12 years. So I really enjoy helping international students understand more about what they can do abroad and help you find the right fit in order to study outside of your own cultural context, because that living abroad has been one of the best experiences for me. And I love learning from new environments and new cultures. So I think that it's a nice thing to be able to share these experiences with other people, and also to be able to connect with you and help you as a person who is, let's say, not foreign anymore, but I understand what it's like to come to Italy without really knowing what to expect. So I'm very happy to be here today to explain to you a little bit about Università Cattolica, where I have been working since 2015. It is not moving forward. The next slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see the slide. I wanted to start off the presentation by sharing a little bit of information about the Italian higher education system in general. In Italy, we have a system that is a little bit different than some other countries. It is similar to a few other places in the European Union. But we actually have 13 years of high school, which is a good number, more than some other locations might have. And when you finish the high school education, you can take a bachelor's degree that in Italy we call laurea triennale, because it's 3 years. So the triennale actually refers to the 3-year length program. And then you could take a single cycle degree program. So today we're actually going to talk about a single cycle degree program, because I'm going to share with you the information about our medicine and surgery degree. The medicine and the surgery degree program is just one single cycle degree program, meaning that you will receive the undergraduate and the graduate experience in one unified academic curriculum. When you finish our degree program, you will be able to have a title of medical doctor that is equivalent to a terminal degree all around the world. So you will actually have a qualification, even though you started the program straight out of high school, and you don't have to ever apply or reapply or take any standardized tests outside of the academic system inside Cattolica, because you will start right after you finish your secondary schooling, and then you will complete the entire program as one unified course. So in my opinion, this is a really nice advantage for people who know for sure that it is your dream to study medicine, and you know that you're going to go into the medical field and want to be a doctor at the end, because you jump right into the area of study that you've been waiting to get started with. And you don't have to take pre-med courses or go through any gen ed stuff. You're going to actually focus specifically on the area that you're most interested in, which is medical studies, biology, clinical studies, the laboratory experience. In the first 3 years of the program, you're going to get the basics. You're going to focus on theory. You're going to focus on all sort of the practical aspects of what you need a foundation for going into the clinical phase. And once you hit the 4th year of our program, you will already be able to go into the hospital and start learning more about the patient care, about taking care of the clinical aspects of things and diagnosis. So it's a really nice program because we have a good balance of both theory, practical studies, and the clinical practice as well. I'm going to talk a tiny bit more about the program specifically a little bit later, but I wanted to give you that brief introduction now. Once you finish the 6-year program, you have a number of different things that you could do. First of all, you will be qualified to register to become a licensed medical practitioner somewhere. You could be a general practitioner. Most students in Italy will not start their career even as a general practitioner until they've done what's called a residency or a specialization program. So you can see that the little slide here shows that you would get access to dottorato di ricerca. If you finish your medicine program, you will go also into what's called the residency or the specialization, where you choose a specific clinical area that you're interested in. Or you might choose what's called a PhD or a dottorato di ricerca if, let's say, you're more interested in specific types of research or perhaps public health. So there's a number of different opportunities available to you once you finish your degree program. Let's see if I can remember how to make the next slide go. Okay, so staying on the theme of studying in Italy, some people have a few questions, and I think it's kind of fun to go through these little mini myths or truths in Italy. When you come to study here, do you need to know Italian? The real answer is probably a little bit. I do not need you to know any Italian in order to succeed in your academic program at Università Catholica. So please don't worry if you don't know how to say anything, even hi, ciao, it's pretty easy. But you really don't need to have a background in the knowledge for our purposes at Cattolica. But the reason that I say a little bit is just because this is something that you want to be ready to learn. Obviously, you're going to be moving to the country where everyone speaks Italian around you. You can actually get around Rome pretty easily without knowing any Italian. In fact, the first 2 or 3 years that I was here, all I wanted to do is learn Italian, and I was having trouble because everybody wanted to speak English with me. So I kept telling people, can you please speak Italian to me? Because I want to learn Italian. But let's say that the grocery store, the area and community around our campus obviously is going to be an Italian context, even though you will be able to find ways to communicate with people without any trouble. You probably do want to at least be ready to be in an environment where everyone around you is speaking a language that you might not understand. Is studying in Italy expensive? I would say no. I'm an American. I paid a ridiculous amount of money for my graduate and undergraduate degrees in the United States. So for me, studying in Italy is not expensive at all. But of course, that's a relative term for everyone. I'm going to go into the costs when we get into the details about our program specifically. But I think that the Italian higher education system, being one of the most well-known, we have one of the oldest, actually the oldest university in Europe is right in Italy. For the quality that you get here, the price is really, really worth it. And it is about half what you might spend, if not less, even for Università Catholica, which is a private institution, than you would pay in some place like the United States. Will you be penalized for being a non-EU student? No, of course not. There are some benefits, or so it looks like, for EU students, but really it's just because they have been contributing to the system all these years, paying taxes for the right to higher education. So many times there are different ways that students could pay their tuition fees based on what their family income is. This is not to be confused with EU students and non-EU students necessarily paying different amounts. It's just a way that the EU has given their citizens an advantage for being here for so many years and helping them to cover the cost for the right to education that they have. So you're not going to be paying anything extra. Actually, you will be covering the fees that are necessary, especially at Università Cattolica. Your tuition fees go to the teaching staff. They go to things like insurance, both for liability issues if you fall down in the classroom, but also inside the hospital. Everything that happens when you're observing or when you're taking part in some of the clinical trials and things that you might have to participate in as a student, this is all covered by your tuition fees. So these are things to take into consideration, that it is not two different fees necessarily, but two different situations and some costs that need to be covered. Nothing extra, really. One thing you might want to really think about if you're considering applying to other universities in Italy, other than just Università Cattolica, is that we really don't have a unified application process. I know that in some places, maybe you can fill out, let's say, one application and then send it to many different universities. In Italy, this is not happening. So if you're interested in applying to Università Cattolica, listen very carefully at the end of the presentation, and I will tell you exactly how to get that done. And keep in mind that this process is only valid for us. Does location make a difference? Yes. Location makes a big difference, not only globally, but also in Italy itself. So each little community in Italy has its own culture, its own language sometimes, because they have different dialects that they speak. And you can learn so much by being in Italy and also traveling around. So I think that Italy is an amazing location for so many reasons. And I will just give you a few little things that I think are interesting as a person who moved here as an adult, that if someone had told me about before I came here, I would have been really excited to study, because the community in Italy gives you a chance to be able to build some life skills that you really can't find in too many other places. You have access to so many different cultural events, cultural activities, and even just the most beautiful landscapes around you. But in addition to that, The Italian culture is unique, and the communicative norms here are a unique blend of the Northern European method and the Mediterranean lifestyle, especially in Rome. So I like to welcome Brazilian students to campus because usually the Brazilian students have a lot of fun with the Italian culture. Sometimes the Northern Europeans have a hard time because they're not as flexible and they don't understand certain things like waiting in line at the post office for hours. And usually my Brazilian students don't worry too much about these things. But the thing that's really nice for me about the Italian culture is it's almost like you get the best of both worlds. I think that after living here, you'll be able to go out and communicate with people from all over the world without really too many difficulties, because it helps you to understand cultural diversity and a mental flexibility that you can't necessarily earn or experience or understand in other places. So I invite you to come over to Italy to check it out and see if you agree with me, and tell me later on after you've started studying with us. So to close up my conversation about why I study in Italy, I wanted to just give you a few facts about healthcare and medicine, specifically in the Italian context. Probably you knew that Italy is one of the most beautiful countries to visit in the world. Maybe you've heard about the food and the fashion and the architecture. But did you know that Italy is actually one of the world leaders in healthcare practices, clinical research, and medical professionalism overall? We've been consistently rated the most efficient healthcare system in Europe, the healthiest country on earth. Usually we're within the top 3. I think for the past like 6 or 7 years, these rankings, they don't come out annually. So you have to keep that in mind. But let's say the last 3 or 4 rankings, we have always been within the top 3 of the healthiest countries. So this is really interesting, I think, for someone who wants to study medicine, because thanks to the public healthcare system in Italy, thanks to the quality of care that people receive, and thanks to the lifestyle and the diet and many things that maybe we don't always take into consideration when we think about what goes into quality healthcare in general, these are things that are taking place in Italy and that have historically been taking place for many, many years. So why not come to Italy to study and understand why we're getting to the top 3 year after year after year when Bloomberg publishes this global health index? Also, as I said before, the affordable costs and the 6-year program. And number 5, I think, is really, really interesting because we probably will be needing doctors very soon. We have had some predictions that we will be in a deficit for medical doctors and medical professionals in the next few years. And now with the COVID pandemic, we see the strain that's taking place on the entire industry. So surely we will probably need some help. And Italy is very happy to welcome you. If you're going to study here, we will be pleased if you can stay. So it is not a really difficult process to convert your residency permit for studies into a residency permit for specialization or residency doctor programs, or finally for work. If you find a job, if you get hired here within a certain amount of time once you finish school, you will actually be able to convert very easily your residency permit for studies into a residency permit for work. This is not always the case in any other context. So this is something that I think is worth highlighting because, of course, once you finish your studies, you want to be able to find employment. And Italy is definitely open to the idea of people who have received our academic formation staying here in order to give back to the community by working with us. So now that you have a good idea about why you might want to study medicine in Italy, I would like to talk about Università Cattolica specifically. This is a picture of the entrance to our Rome campus, and we will give you a few details about Università Cattolica specifically. First of all, we are a very large university. We are the largest private university in Italy. We have 12 schools, which means that we have a number of different academic faculties, a number of different academic disciplines that people can study. Now, as I said before, location makes a difference. Università Cattolica actually has 5 campuses. So our Rome campus is dedicated specifically to medicine, and you might not see the students who are studying business or food production, but they are there. We have our home campus in Milan, and we have 4 other campuses, including Rome. So you're becoming a part of a very large community, more than 40,000 total students. Of that, we have, I would even bump it up and say close to 5,000 international students. And then we have a huge global network. So this is something to take into consideration when you're choosing a university, because you're going to build your own network while you're here. So we want to know that we have good friends to study with, hopefully. But when you finish your studies or when you're working on, projects, you're going to need a community that you can build off of. Especially in the medical field, what I've seen since I've started working at the university is that grants and globally funded research projects, or let's say some clinical care trials, a lot of times you need to apply for funding for these things. And in the European Union specifically, it seems like the magic number is three countries. So let's say that you come to Università Cattolica and you meet a number of different students from all over the world, and then some of you stay in Italy, some of you move back to Brazil, some of you end up going off to the United States or somewhere in China, Africa, and suddenly your class of students that study medicine at Università Catholica become the people who you can partner with in order to start publishing for medical journals, to do research for clinical trials, to compare what's going on in China to what's going on in Italy, to understand how to navigate a global pandemic, which hopefully never happens again in our lifetime. But this is what is happening at Università Cattolica. And we're doing this not only with medical professionals and our students and our teachers, but across disciplines, because of course you can use the pandemic as an example itself. There are psychological aspects the community needs to take into consideration. There are economic issues, obviously, that every country is facing. How are we going to move forward in this pandemic? How can we sustain the hospitals and the care and everything else from an economic level? These are all things that are taking place right now at our university, where our alumni can talk to each other and they're involved in different aspects of what's going on in the world. So going to a university that has 12 different schools and all of these different academic disciplines is something that you shouldn't take for granted. And Università Cattolica has that to offer for you. So going back to medicine specifically, if there's any reason that you should come here other than the beautiful scenery that I'll talk about a little bit later, Università Cattolica has some of the top faculty and teaching staff across the globe, not just in Italy, but we are a globally recognized medical school. Being in the top 150 ranked by QS World Rankings is nothing to joke about, because there are so many medical schools around the world. So to be able to earn that little badge, something we're very proud of. Also, something to keep in mind is that the rankings take into consideration the research published. So this means that the people that you're going to be interacting with, the professors, the doctors that are working in the hospital, because let's remember, you're not always talking just to academic faculty, but you will be going into our university hospital that's right on campus in order to take your clinical courses. And so in there, you have also a whole bunch of professionals that aren't necessarily working in the academic community, but that you will have access to, who will be teaching you in a certain sense. And these professionals that work at our university are leaders in their fields. We have been ranked the best hospital in Italy by Newsweek, which is an American publication. And let me tell you, that is not an easy entitled to earn, because they're kind of picky, not only about the quality of care, but also about the aesthetics in the hospital. Does it feel clean? Does it look nice? How do they treat us customer service wise? So the fact that Gemelli has won the best hospital in Italy is something we're really proud of. We are a private university. This is an interesting phenomenon in the world of medicine in Italy, because medicine is considered a public right, and so is the study of medicine. So the fact that we're a private university is interesting, because that you will be able to look inside of our hospital and see that there are two sides to the management. You actually can participate in, observe, and be a part of an institution that is both public and private. We are part of the public national healthcare system, but there are also private clinics that operate inside the hospital, and our doctors, professors, the people who are running the wards are allowed to take patients both privately and publicly. And this is something that you really cannot find in too many places. So it's something worth considering, because it will give you an understanding of how both approaches work and both systems work. And that way, when you finish, you will be able to understand how to navigate any type of employment or any type of public-private service that you might go into as a doctor. We also have a very nice class size, in my opinion. You're not going to get lost in 200, 300 students in a lecture hall. But like I said before, you should be able to find a nice group of peers to study with, connect with, and also learn from, because that we have 30 students from the EU and 50 from non-EU. What does that mean? That means people who hold an EU citizenship and people who do not hold a EU citizenship. So I'm sure there are some people in the audience that maybe have dual citizenship. If you have dual citizenship, you will be considered an EU student. So if you think about it that way, it actually adds a lot more diversity to the classroom, because a number of our EU students are coming from places like Brazil, but they happen to hold an Italian passport as well. So 80 students from all over the world, you'll be able to learn a lot, and you will be able to have many different perspectives on what's going on in the classroom. You'll also have great teacher to, let's say, faculty to student ratio. So that means that you will be able to interact with your professors. You should have opportunities to ask questions, and they're gonna probably know your name, because you're not in a very large class, a large community. And to me, this is an added value in an academic system, because you want to be able to connect with the faculty, and you want to be able to connect with your classmates in order for you to be able to enrich the experience. You always have the opportunity to study alone, but you want to also have the opportunity to connect with other people while you're on campus. Finally, one thing that I really, really, really like to promote about Università Cattolica, because I have been around and seen how different communities act, is we really try very hard to offer services for our international students, services for the students who we know are coming to a different context, a different academic system, and they might need to have a little bit of extra assistance navigating everything while they're there. So let me tell you just a little bit about the student services that we offer. First of all, we have an international student center. At our Rome campus specifically, this is located in the hospital. We have what's called the Medicine and Surgery Hub, which is an office dedicated to our medicine and surgery English taught program students. The reason for this is because that we wanted to make sure that when you get to the clinical phase, you have a point of reference that's easy to access. Like I said before, first 3 years taking place on campus, inside the classrooms, in the academic part of our university. The next 3 years mostly are taking place in the hospital, and even good number of your lectures will probably be in some of the classrooms and lecture halls that we have in the hospital. Now, they're really close to each other. You can walk from one side of campus to the other, and you can even go inside a bridge in case it rains. You don't have to go outside. But the idea was that our students wouldn't have to go all the way back to the international student services on campus if they needed to ask a quick question in between classes or in between rotations at the hospital. So this is really amazing because not every university can offer something like that. The other thing that I like to point out is that we offer language support services. So before we talked about if you need to know Italian or not to come here, no. To stay here, yes. Eventually, you are going to have to learn the language. It's absolutely fundamental to succeeding in the clinical phase. Your exams will always be given in English, but obviously, if you want to understand what's going on in the hospital, you want to understand the Italian language. So we do two things for you. First of all, we have 2 language courses in the curriculum. In the first year and in the third year, you will have an Italian language course that is obligatory and that you get academic credit for, and that we put time aside. We know you're studying Italian that year because there's so much to study in medicine. It's obviously important that we do give you some dedicated time in order to learn the language as well. And then we have a language center on campus, and the language center on campus offers all sorts of language services. So if you're interested in learning another language, you can go there and you can ask them to study Spanish, to study German, to study something else. So the language support services are great, especially if you're looking into getting to some sort of global aspects of medicine, whether it be global health policy or research, and you want to be able to communicate with other communities afterwards. We have obviously plenty of places to study, libraries, campus areas dedicated to quiet time or little desks where you can sit down and plug in your computer, plug in your phone, and just hang out to study. But the library is one of my favorite places on campus. And then we also have 2 more things I'll mention. You can see the other things that are popping up here on the slide, but accommodations, which is fundamental. So the accommodations are managed by our partner that works with us in order to offer certain services on campus. And the accommodations are extremely important for international students that might need to get a visa. You don't have to live on campus. It's not obligatory at all, but we do offer a service that is really pretty easy to navigate and very convenient as far as location, and also the fact that we give you all the documents that you need. If you choose to live through the on-campus service provider, you will get the documents that you need in a timely fashion in order to make your visa request. So that is something I think is really helpful. And finally, my favorite event of the year is orientation week, when we get to welcome all of our students to campus. But we'd like to give a special focus to those of you who are new to the community and help you understand a little bit about how to navigate everything on campus. So we introduce you to all of the services that you'll have available. Some of the staff member come to speak to you, and we will be able to help you with any sort of bureaucratic issues that you have, like applying to your permit to stay so that you could be a legal resident if you don't have an EU passport. So those are just a few things that I like to highlight because they are kind of unique to Cattolica, I would say, in Italy. You're not going to find a lot of institutions that can really help you out in the same way that we can help you on our campus. One other thing that I think is really important to mention is that we offer study abroad experience and study away opportunities. Of course, I'm trying to get you to come to Italy, and that's a big deal in and of itself. But once you get here, if you're interested in going elsewhere, we have so many opportunities to you. Let's say you want to go back home and you know, okay, I'm going to study in Italy for 6 years, but then after that, I want to go back home and work there. If that's the case, you can set up a clinical internship, or maybe an exchange, you could go to our exchange office and talk to them about the partnerships that we have, and you might be able to do a year of study back home or a year of study in Spain, for example. Germany is pretty popular for our students, and clinical electives are really popular for medical students because you have to have clinical practice, and so we have great opportunities, very flexible opportunities to let you design or take part in a pre-existing clinical elective program. So these are really good opportunities because right now, let's face it, everybody needs to be able to understand how to navigate not just a simple context, one area of medicine, one cultural context. We need to understand how to interact with our professional peers from all across the globe. So if you're interested in studying somewhere outside of Italy during the time you're here, you actually have I think it's 24 months, but I know that you can go abroad at least 2 times, that's for sure. So this is really interesting, something just to keep in mind as you go along, and something that Cattolica does really well. It's not the last thing I'm going to talk about, but it is going to be the last sort of specific thing about campus services. We have some great services, so I wanted to give them to you first, and here are the tuition fee costs. So as we said before, is it really expensive to study in Italy? In my opinion, it's not. Non-EU residents, you're going to be paying around $15,800 a year. Keep in mind that these are figures based on the fees that we have. Every once in a while, they change a little bit, so don't come back and say, but Elizabeth, you told me. These are our fees as of today. And I would have to say that this is something that you want to be prepared for. So I'm putting it out there, right up front, exactly what it is, just because that the scholarship situation is a bit complicated here, and it's also very competitive. We have regional scholarships available that are really pretty cool, but the problem is that the applications don't open until the mid to late summer. Students don't find out if they got the scholarship until probably halfway through the first year. And a lot of times the funds aren't dispersed until the end of your first year. So you're gonna come into the program already. So we want everyone to be prepared to pay the tuition fees, know what they are up front, because it's also really important for getting a student visa. If you are a non-EU citizen, then the embassy is gonna ask you for proof of economic means. So our tuition fees are going into all of the services that I explained to you, and it's going to cover the cost of all of the clinical training and academic coursework that you're doing. And then I would say one of my favorite things about Rome has to be the fact that the cost of living in Rome is really not so bad at all. If you consider that you're in the center of Europe, in a European capital city, we really recommend that you have about $10,000 to $12,000 available per year for your cost of living. And for me, this is phenomenal. So speaking of that, I would say the last but not least reason to come to Cattolica is because we are located in Rome. And like I said, it's the heart of Italy. It's a European capital city. It is a cultural heritage site. It's one of the most beautiful cities, in my opinion, in the world, but you don't have to take it from me, because that there are many poets and travel bloggers and historians and architects and people from all over the world, artists that have been inspired by Rome throughout its history. So why not come to Rome? If you're going to go into something like studying medicine and you're going to have all of the pressure that you have to study and to be on top of your academic system, then why not be able to just take a walk and not plan anything but 2 or 3 train stops away from campus, go out and see some of the most beautiful, some of the most amazing, and some of the most historic sites in the world. Personally, for me, when I've had a rough day, I can take a walk around the center of Rome and feel refreshed. And I think that many people that live here would agree. So I think coming to Rome has great benefits, and it's a wonderful opportunity for you to be able to step away from the academic and pressure that you might have no matter how much you love it, we all have our days where studying is tough. So come to Rome where you have plenty of other things to do to take your mind off of that. Also, as I said before, we have our hospital here. Now, why am I mentioning the hospital again? Because knowing that the hospital is in Rome itself is something really, really an advantage, I would say, for studying Medicina Cattolica, because being in Rome means that you have access to a larger community that goes beyond just the hospital itself. Our public health institute is connected to the Ministry of Public Health here, and our professors are communicating directly with the decision makers who are then going on to advise all of the world health officials about how to handle global health policy. We have UN agencies here. We have all sorts of ministry officials in general. So it's interesting because that you're understanding that the medical field is really connected to a larger network of people who are making decisions about things on a global scale as well, right in the heart of Rome. And you're going to be in the middle of that. And this is really something that it needs to be highlighted, because I think we don't think about those advantages as often when we're looking specifically at academics and admissions and getting in. So coming to Rome definitely has its advantages. Now that you guys are all dying to apply, let me tell you how you can go ahead and do that. How do you get into Università Catholica? What are the expectations and what are the requirements for our application? First of all, entry requirements. We just need to know that you have an academic degree from your secondary school that is valid for admission to Italy. So we're not going to ask you for specific grades in any subject. We're not going to necessarily have you write a crazy letter of motivation or essay. So please understand that going through the application process with us is not terribly stressful. Our admissions team is there to help you with it, not to exclude you. Our goal is to get everyone who is eligible to take the entrance exam. The entrance exam is the hard part. So don't worry about applying. Don't stress out about having a perfect application. Get the application in, get the application done so that you can start studying and preparing for the entrance exam, because that is what really matters to us. We want to see that you're qualified. We want to know that you have the academic background and the general knowledge necessary to succeed in our program once you get here. So you will want to do well on our entrance exam. Once you apply, you have to pay an application fee of €160. And shortly after that, you're going to be given access to an online test simulator. This is the best way to prepare for our exam. We also have some study material available on our website that you can take a look at even when we finish this call. But the best way to prepare for our exam is to use our test simulator, because it mimics the exam itself. So you just take that over and over again, and you're going to understand how to succeed on our test. You're going to be able to see your score and improve it each time. And the students that score the best have always told us they used the simulator every day. So make sure that you apply and then pay the fee so that you can start preparing early. You can see on the slide the dates. So I told you before that it matters what citizenship you hold. And the reason for that is because we have two categories of students based on your citizenship status. Our Italian top program is open only to EU students. So this medicine and surgery English top program has 50 places reserved for the non-EU. And that was set up on purpose so that we would be able to accept non-EU students at our institution. So we have to have the two separate pools and two separate, let's call them competitions. So once you apply, you will declare what citizenships you hold. If you hold two citizenships, the EU citizenship will prevail and you will be put in the EU candidate side. Everything else is pretty much exactly the same. Application is due March 18th. Applications are already open now. And then the entrance exam. The only thing that's a little bit different for the EU and non-EU, other than the number of places available, is the entrance exam. So our preference would be to have everyone take the entrance exam at a test center in person. This is what we did pre-COVID. We have test centers all over the world. But due to the COVID situation, unfortunately, we can't necessarily execute this anymore because we don't know what might happen in one place or another. So for non-EU citizens, you will take the test from home. It's a computer-based exam, so either way, everyone's taking it on a computer. We will be having an online proctor who will be watching and observing to make sure that you are doing everything the right way, that it's fair, and that there's no issues. But the EU students will be asked to go to a test center in person and take the exam on site at one of our designated locations. So when you fill out the application, you can take a look and choose your test center. Also, since the EU students will be taking the test in person, in order to make sure that we don't have any capacity issues, there are 2 dates available, and you will be called and we will tell you what time and where and which day you will take the exam. Same thing for the non-EU students as far as being called in. We're going to send you an official email explaining you're invited to take the test on this date and this time. So minor difference, in person or online, 50 spots for non-EU, 30 for EU, but everybody needs to get the application in by the 18th, and everybody needs to take the test the 6th or the 7th. And you will all receive feedback by around April 12th to let you know if you pass the exam, not where you rank. So what happens is that after everybody's done, we take the scores and we put them into what we call rankings. The person who scored the best will be number 1, and then we go down from there and we start calling people to enroll in the program based on the score. So the top 50 people will be called first, the top 30 people will be called first. So you want to score well on the entrance exam. How can you do that? Study hard. Use the test simulator. And to give you an idea of what it's like, you can see on this slide and our website the makeup of the exam itself. So like I said, we're not asking anybody to give us a minimum score in biology in your secondary school when you finish with your high school transcripts. We're not really looking at that, but there will be 18 questions on biology on the test. Then we're asking about chemistry, physics, and math. Obviously, no surprises there. Only 2 questions on general knowledge, but we do have 20 questions on psychoattitudinal subjects, which in and of itself sounds like really confusing to me. Basically, it's a complicated way to say logic-based questions, some problem solving. These are the questions that most people really want to study for. Usually, if you're coming in to study medicine, you're prepared for your sciences, general basic sciences, but these questions might be a little different and new to you. So that's why I say to use the test simulator, because there you're going to see them, you're going to start to understand, and you'll know if they're confusing or not, and you'll be able to understand what you need to do in order to study and be prepared. We also have 5 questions on religious and ethical culture. No big deal. You don't have to be Catholic. You don't have to be Christian to come to Università Cattolica, but we are a Catholic university, so we do have some questions about religion and ethical culture. Finally, I would say that the best thing to do, like I said, is to go ahead and apply now. Why? Because the applications are open. So if you're already set and ready to go, you can even hold your phone up and scan the QR code right there, and we'll take you straight to our application online. And this is going to be the best way to help you study, because the earlier you apply, the earlier you finalize your application with the application fee, the earlier you will get our test simulator so that you can start practicing the test. So go ahead and apply now if you're ready. We will be able to open the floor for questions right now. So don't worry. I see everybody's asking a whole bunch of questions on the chat, so we'll get into that right now. But I wanted just to give you also this slide here so that you know how to contact us in case you have questions later on. First email is our office email where you can find me and all my colleagues. So you always get an answer there within 3 to 4 days maximum. And then you can actually scan the QR code if you want. That will take us to the website. Please feel free to follow us also on our social media if you want to. But I would say that right now, we should probably get started answering some of the questions that you all have today. So Anna, did you want to be telling me the best way to go about answering the questions?
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. I will translate the questions to you. And if it's necessary, I will translate your answer into Portuguese for the students as well, okay? I think we can be like very straight to the point to read the most questions we can. So the first question is from Ana Laura. She's asking if she could transfer her course, her program, to Cattolica because she has already started her medicine program here in Brazil.
Okay, perfect. So we do have transfer opportunities available, but the transfer application is something a little bit more complicated. So what I would recommend, instead of getting into big details right now, is that you go ahead and send us an email to the International Inquirer email and let us know, what you're studying, because there's some specific criteria that you need to fulfill in order to be eligible for that. The application opens at the end of the year, like springtime usually. And one thing that I can tell you is that you could also consider, if you're interested in applying to the first year. So the transfer questions are something that we like to go into in detail with our candidates so that you'll be able to choose the best option for you. So go ahead and email us right away so that we can start that conversation, and you could decide if you want to wait for transfer applications to open or consider applying for the first year now.
Ok, perfect. So, pessoal, se vocês quiserem transferir o curso para a Cattolica, o conselho é que vocês primeiro entrem em contato por e-mail para ver qual é a melhor possibilidade para vocês, tá bom? Now, the second question. Jessica is asking if there are any programs available for people who already have a medicine degree. So maybe a postgraduate or something like this.
Okay, so I was going to say, unfortunately, for those of you who hold a medicine degree, that is the only criteria that really makes you not allowed to apply to this program. But yes, we do have, like I said, Universita Catholica, residency, doctor programs if you want, and then PhD programs. So if you're interested in a doctoral degree in PhD, that is something definitely, again, worth writing to us about so we can put you in contact with the office who manages those programs. They're definitely quite a few, I would say, in different areas that you could apply to.
Ok, perfect. So, pessoal, se vocês quiserem saber mais sobre outros cursos, tem disponibilidade, é só acessar o site da Cattolica, mas essa live de hoje ela foi focada principalmente nos cursos de graduação, tá? Now a question from Livia. Which are the steps after concluding the high school in Brazil that she should take to apply to Cattolica?
Okay, so what I was telling you before is that you want to go and fill out our online application. Basically, you can apply as a high school student or as someone who has completed the high school degree already. And our admissions office is going to ask you for your transcripts or your degree, your diploma. So if you've already received the diploma, you will put that there. And if not, you will give us your high school transcripts. And then they're going to look at it and just make sure that you have the minimum number of years of schooling and the academic content that is required to enroll at a university in Italy. So the best way to prepare everything is to go straight to our application and start going through the steps. And if you have any questions about the documents that we ask you to upload, you can just write to our office, or you can write even to our admissions team, and we coordinate together to give you answers as soon as you have a question. But it's very straightforward. So you just need to have your documents ready, or you go check out what they're asking for, and the next day you can go back and upload them. You can get it started and then go back to it, no problem.
Legal. Então, gente, é só ter certeza que você já tem o diploma, já tem o histórico acadêmico para que possa ser avaliado pela Cattolica. E também no site deles tem todo o processo de inscrição. Então, tem o passo a passo, vocês vão poder acompanhar todos os documentos necessários, tudo que é necessário mesmo para que vocês se inscrevam no processo seletivo da universidade. Here's a question that you already covered during the presentation, but I think it's worth asking again. Gabriela is asking if the program is taught in Italian or in other language, like English.
So it is an English taught program. All of your academic courses and exams will be administered in English, but like I was saying during the presentation, you will be participating in a community that is going to be an Italian speaking community. So that includes not only in the hospital, which is obvious because the patients and the doctors will speak Italian, and the nurses and all the staff. But even on campus, so we have our English taught programs and plenty of international students, but the rest of the community is Italian. So aside from the dedicated staff members that speak English in order to facilitate our programs, the majority of our community will speak in Italian. But to answer very specifically the question, the academic part of the program is going to be taught in English.
Cool. So, pessoal, o curso ele é ministrado em inglês, a maior parte acadêmica do curso é em inglês, mas, claro, aquela parte de residência, o contato com os médicos, com o pessoal que trabalha nos hospitais, em geral é feito em italiano, mas a Católica tem todo um suporte, tem a possibilidade de vocês também fazerem os cursos de italiano no campus, então vocês não precisam se preocupar, o processo de admissão ele pode ser feito em inglês, as aulas são em inglês, e com o passar do tempo, se vocês sentirem a necessidade de aprender italiano, que provavelmente vai acontecer, vocês conseguem aprender na Católica também. Ana Laura is asking another question here. Which is the methodology of the classes? Is it more traditional and academic, or is it more like hands-on education?
That is a really great question, and also something that I hope that I should incorporate into my presentation next time. So thank you for asking this. Our curriculum is very unique in the sense that Italy has a traditional way of teaching medicine that it involves an awful lot of memorization, rote learning, and kind of this mentality that the professor is the expert on everything. And they're kind of, the person that's there to give you this information, and then you have to absorb it and bring it back to them later on. We are really proud of this academic system and method because that our alumni from our traditional programs and all other universities in Italy have been global leaders in medicine. So when we designed the English taught program, we had an objective to innovate the curriculum. We understand that there are a lot of new methods out there, and we wanted to bring those methods to Cattolica, but we didn't want to lose the quality that we've been having for years, and we didn't want to, just take that out because there was no reason to necessarily get rid of it. So we've mixed the methods. And the important thing to know too is that the teaching staff you're working with usually works in both courses. So you're getting our traditional Italian academic faculty, but we are doing problem-based learning and a lot more practical activities as well earlier in the program than you might get in the traditional format. So we're really trying to give you, as I mentioned before, the best of both worlds, both for the teaching methods and also the experience that you're going to have. You're going to have public-private, you're going to have problem solving, but you're also going to be expected to take oral exams, which is a very traditional thing in Italy. This is important because you have to be able to think on your feet, but you're going to have to take written exams in order to apply the critical thinking skills. So we're trying really hard to give you both methods that have been proven to be kind of best practice all over the globe.
Cool. Então, a Católica ela oferece um sistema de educação bem híbrido, tem essa parte acadêmica que é bem firme, bem forte para que vocês tenham toda a parte teórica, mas também oferece experiências reais para que vocês aprendam na prática tudo aquilo que vocês estão lendo nos livros e recebendo dos professores. Here's a good question from Daniela. She says, good evening, Elizabeth. I would like to ask you if the universities in Italy, in this case Cattolica, have some exchange programs, especially master degree exchange programs and doctor degree as well.
So yes, we have, like I was saying before, we have a lot of exchange program opportunities, and Università Cattolica specifically has a really nice approach to international education. So we have all sorts of opportunities available in addition to what is usually available traditionally at any European institution, which is the Erasmus program. So I don't know if people know what Erasmus program is, but it is a direct exchange where if you sign a partnership with Università Catholica and another university, then your students can just switch places. So you could study for a year in, let's see, Università de Cádiz in Spain. We have a lot of students go to Paris, for example. We have these traditional exchange programs available, but we also have individual customized programs and very unique opportunities for students to go places like the United States, Canada, all over South America too. So our study abroad, I'd say, is one of our strengths.
That's good. And are there any scholarships for these exchange programs?
So for the exchange programs, actually, yes, that's something we also find very nice. First of all, we have EU funding. So Erasmus, if you're applying for Erasmus, there's the Erasmus scholarship that helps with cost of living because you don't pay tuition fees for that since you're just paying your Cattolica fees. But then we also have internal scholarships available. And if you want to know more about these programs, you can let us know via email. I will put you in contact with the office that manages them so they can give you a little bit of an overview about that, or I will give you an answer that they have provided me with so you can see the details a little bit about what we offer.
Okay, so the students should send an email to the address on screen?
Yep, if they want me to give them some more like details about specific things like that, we could definitely get them in some answers about it. But yeah, the big answer is yes, there is funding available to go abroad once you get here. The scholarships for your tuition fees at Cattolica are very rare and difficult to get, but once you're here, if you want to go abroad, we do have interesting scholarship opportunities that you can look into.
Cool. Pessoal, então a pergunta da Daniela foi se existem oportunidades de intercâmbio entre universidades na Europa e outras universidades do mundo com a Católica. E a resposta da Elizabeth foi que sim, existem vários programas de intercâmbio, tem o Erasmus, enfim, tem várias oportunidades, e que caso vocês queiram saber mais dessas oportunidades e de bolsas de estudo que também estão ligadas a esse tipo de oportunidade, vocês podem enviar um e-mail para o endereço que está ali na tela, né, na parte de contacts, que eles vão oferecer, né, mais informações para vocês sobre esse assunto. Elizabeth, and now a question from Livia again. She said she's trying to start the online application right now, which is very good. But the only option to choose the language she found is I want to study in English. She would like to study in Italian instead.
Oh,
so how could she go about it?
Okay, so the Italian Talk program, first of all, like I was mentioning during the presentation, you probably need to have an EU citizenship or residency to apply.
Yes, she does. If I'm not wrong, she mentioned this.
Okay, so I don't think the applications are open for the Italian Talk program yet, and you will need to go through a whole different kind of application process for that program. So what we will do is we will take your information, and you can email, like I said, the email on the screen here. You can go ahead and contact me there so that I can put you in touch with the office who manages the Italian Talk program, and then you will interact with our office still, because they will be the ones to make sure to check out your high school education system and let the office know that you're eligible for the other program as well. So if you want to get more details about that, please let us know. And I would suggest even considering both programs if you speak English, if you're interested in speaking and learning in English, so that you can have two opportunities available to you.
Legal. Então, Lívia, não deixa de mandar o e-mail que o pessoal vai te ajudar em tudo que você precisar nesse processo, tá bom? So, Elizabeth, I think we have a last question here from Natalie. She's asking, why is the tuition fee ranging between 7,000 to 16,000? It's not clear for her.
So this is the fee that is available to people whose family earns an income in the EU. So when I was saying before, like the income, are you penalized for being a non-EU citizen? Why did we put that up there before? Because actually you're not at all penalized, but the EU citizens, people who pay taxes in the EU, whose family earns an income in the EU, have the opportunity to go talk to our finance office and consider getting an income-based tuition fee. So if your family's income is in a certain bracket, then the lowest that you would pay would be 7,000. Whereas if your family earns a lot of money, then you might pay as much as 16,000. So if your family has an income that's earned in the EU, you'll talk to our finance office and they will calculate your tuition fee based on that income itself. So those are the differences. And the non-EU income is just a flat rate, 15,800. Like I said, these are the figures as they stand right now. So sometimes, they change a little bit from year to year, but not usually. Most of the time, I think in the history of the program, it's only changed once. But 15,800, that's a flat rate for anybody who doesn't have an EU earned income. Otherwise, you will calculate your tuition fees with the tax office.
Perfect. So, Natalie, a grande questão é ser um cidadão europeu ou não ser um cidadão europeu, né? A União Europeia tem algumas condições especiais para estudantes que fazem parte, né? Que são nativos dos países do grupo, que têm a nacionalidade dos países, e é por isso que esse valor varia, né? Então, é uma questão de legislação interna mesmo, mas vale a pena mais tarde você retornar naquele slide que fala sobre os valores para você ver qual seria o seu, de acordo com a sua nacionalidade, caso você tenha uma dupla nacionalidade ou não. And now, last but not least, Elizabeth, is there a link where the students can go and apply directly? Because Gelson is asking me as well, where do I apply?
That is a very good question. So if you want to apply, you can actually go to the international.unicat.it website there. And I think that the QR code on this slide can help you get in. I don't know if the last slide also has the link or if it's just the QR code, the one before this one.
It has the link.
It's pretty, so the QR code can take you right there, but if you don't have a smartphone to use right now, once you get to our main website, you want to look under undergraduate programs. So the degree program's undergraduate, because this is a single cycle degree, so you start with the undergraduate and then look for medicine and surgery. And inside there should be information that you can click on in order to get to the application fee. I think right when you click medicine and surgery on the left-hand side of the screen, there's like a little place that says apply now. Somewhere it should pop up. I don't know if we have a minute. I can even try to see if I can get the direct link and pop it into the chat if you want.
Yes, actually, I just got the link. I will share with the students right now. So, Gelson, I will send you, and I will send it on the public chat as well. So, apply now.
And you will see also on the website, if you're going into the International Unicat, like I said, get into the medicine and surgery part, and you will see all sorts of information on the website as well. The things I talked about today, but also other information for you about, let's say, preparing for the exam. You can see information about what happens if after you're admitted. So there's all sorts of good info on that website. While you're looking around to find the application link, take a look at the other tabs as well.
Perfect. So, pessoal, aí nesse link que a gente compartilhou agora, tem todas as informações sobre o curso, o programa completo, e eu deixei aqui a opção, né, onde vocês podem clicar para já começar o processo de inscrição na Cattolica. Então, para aqueles de vocês que quiserem já se inscrever, o link está aqui disponível, tá certo? Elizabeth, thank you very, very much for this live. I think it was very informative for the students, We got many good questions. So I guess that's it. Is there any final message you would like to share with them?
I would just say to, follow your dreams, keep trying, make sure to apply to Cattolica, so hopefully we can be the people to help you get there. And if you have any other questions at all, please contact us, because that's what we're here for, just to make sure that you get the information that you need. So if you think of something, please let us know.
Perfect. Pessoal, então é isso. Como a Elizabeth falou, não deixem de seguir os sonhos de vocês. Estudar medicina é um sonho para muitos. Estudar medicina na Itália, então, é o melhor dos dois mundos. A Cattolica é uma universidade que oferece toda a estrutura para estudantes internacionais. Então, tudo que vocês precisarem, com certeza vocês vão encontrar lá. Não deixem de tirar um print aqui da tela para vocês terem todos os links aqui dos slides, os links de contatos, e-mails, o QR Code. Tira um print agora para vocês não perderem essa informação. Vou até dar um tchauzinho. E muito obrigada por estarem aqui com a gente hoje. Espero que vocês tenham gostado dessa live. E em breve a gente avisa para vocês sobre novas oportunidades. Mas não deixem de escrever para a Cattolica, tá bom? Boa noite para todo mundo e tchau, tchau. Thank you, Elizabeth. Bye, bye.
Tchau.